guys, today we're going to be talking about why Star Citizen is one of the biggest scams in video gaming history. So a year ago I bought Star Citizen for about $100 for the alpha, and since then I have seen pretty much no progress on the game. I mean, aside from small mechanics and a few, insignificant features, the game is pretty much the same. Now, this wouldn't have been such a big deal if the game hadn't raised hold on a minute. $150 million? What the f? Oh no, wait a minute. Even that was an underestimate. They've now raised a total of $200 million by over 2 million backers. That's unbelievable. That's a budget the size of most AAA games. Actually, no, it's greater than almost every AAA game released in the past 10 years. And please keep in mind, guys, this game has been in development now for almost 7 years. That's a very long time to not make any real progress. Just to put that into perspective, Star Citizen raised more money than every other game on Kickstarter combined in 2017. That's unbelievable. And I think we all know why. The idea of having sort of an EVE Online, but more of a first-person experience is really cool. To be able to experience a universe like Star Wars or Star Trek as a player and with the MMORPG components, I mean, that's simply a really good idea. But the execution of this has been just brutal. I mean, the production team hasn't been able to actually make this game even playable, in my opinion. I get no enjoyment out of it, and after 2 or so hours, the game was just completely boring to me. Now, the primary reason for this, in my case, was that there's really nothing to do aside from flying your ship around and sightseeing. The game looks beautiful, but there's not a lot to actually do. There's nothing to interact with. There's a few space stations to go to, and that about sums it up. And just to make all this worse, the game plays horribly. Even if you have a somewhat decent computer, let's say around $1,200, it's still going to run this game on probably around 30 FPS, maybe even less, and that should never be the case. I remember my first experience with this game. I was running it on a computer that's worth about $1,600 at the lowest settings, and I was getting maybe 20 frames per second. Now, that's unplayable to me. There's no point in playing a game if I can't actually see what I'm doing. It's just not even enjoyable. Now, if you have two 1080 Ti's laying around, maybe give this game a shot. I don't know, maybe it's fun for you. But even when I tried the game on a better computer with a 1080, it didn't perform very well. I was still operating at the lowest settings, getting maybe 32, 33 frames per second pretty consistently, and that's just unfortunate. And I wouldn't have been that bothered by this if I had paid maybe $20, $30 to get into the alpha, which would have been somewhat reasonable, but I paid $100 for the most basic version of this game. I don't see how a completely unfinished, barely developed game is worth $100. I get that I'm buying into the alpha and there's some exclusivity that comes with that, but $100? I'm not an investor in this game. That's ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong, I've spent a lot of money to get into alphas. War of Rights, for example, I spent about $70 to buy into that, but that game was actually playable. There was stuff you could do, there's content in that game. It was, in my opinion, already just about as finished as it needed to be, and it was in the early stages of development. Or maybe even Escape from Tarkov. I play that all the time, and I spent $150 on the best version of the game. Now, that game is in beta, and it still definitely has its problems, but it's a hell of a lot more playable than Star Citizen is. So it's now been 6, almost 7 years since this game was first released, with quotation marks, and yeah, sure, we have planetary technology now, but we have no actual finish date in sight. It's been 7 years. That's a long time. And this game isn't exactly Red Dead Redemption. People aren't going to wait for it. It doesn't have the same kind of hype. Even though it's made a lot of money, it's also pissed a lot of people off, and a lot of people, including me, want their money back for the game. Surprisingly, I'm actually okay with a lot of their schemes to generate more money for the game. For example, making these massive and interesting ships cost a lot of money, like upwards of $500, some of them worth a few thousand. Just like EVE Online, I think that's a good idea. I really like that kind of stuff. I know it may seem like a money grab and it might be similar to microtransactions, but it still works in a game. We've seen that before. But that being said, if we have nothing to do with our ship and nowhere to take it, it's not going to be a lot of fun to buy it. I mean, yeah, we spent $600 on this really cool ship, but we're literally just flying it from space station to space station. The combat's not good in the game. I mean, aerial combat or space combat is incredibly dull and boring. It's laggy, it's glitchy, it doesn't really look good, and it's too difficult. It's not about a skill curve, it's just not really doable. Now, don't even get me started on the player combat in this game. It literally looks like you're playing Roblox. It's kind of comical and you'll probably get a laugh out of it, but you shouldn't be getting a laugh out of a game that's supposed to be a serious MMORPG. At least not in the midst of combat when your ship and all your gear is at stake. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Hawkins, are you sure it's not just preference? And it's not preference. Believe me, when you have a $200 million budget and can't even make a game that's really playable, I think objectively, then we have a problem. That's a borderline scam, and it's not fair to your player base. Just to put this into perspective once again, GTA's developing budget was only about $150 million. Star Citizen now costs more to make than GTA 5. I'm sorry, I don't fucking understand that. That's ridiculous. Which means Chris Roberts, the head of the developing company Cloud Imperium Games, is either spending way too much on development or stuffing money in his pockets and running out the back fucking door. Just in case you guys couldn't tell how I felt about this game, please do not buy it. It is not worth your money. Don't give these people something they don't deserve. Just like I talked about last video, vote with your wallet. Anyways guys, thanks for tuning in and watching this video. I appreciate every second you take out of your day to watch my stupid shit. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.